still small voice cries out to
Okay, so remember when we started, we put that pin at the top left-hand corner of the quilt. That's a very important step that I do always in my loading process, so that I don't ever load a quilt wrong and run the risk of running out of backing by the time I get to the end. Okay, so I always put those pin markers for myself so that I know that I'm loading it correctly. Okay, so but now what we're going to do, basically, Paul had asked about there not being a center marker on my quilt leader. At this point, I really don't need a center marking on my quilt leader because I now have my backing loaded, and I can just take the quilt and I can center it now on the backing. Okay, so I can see I have a bigger distance over here, so I'm going to go ahead and move that over. That compensates on that side. Looks good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pinning in the middle. I'm going to put one pin here, and then I'm going to pin out in that direction, come back to the middle and pin in that direction so that I evenly distribute this quilt along this leader.
So do I get a manly pin cushion on my wrist?
We'll have to work on that. Okay, and then what you're going to do, Paul, is just basically put these end to end. It's not critical that they end up being, you know, touching end to end, but you want them to
Leave a little bit of a gap. And
basically be end to end. Okay?
guys, I only do this because I love her very much. Between this dog and quilting, I have no testosterone left in my body, but I'm not out picking up chicks, let's just put it that way.
Thank God for that.
All right. Remember, I do not do this for a living, so I will speed things up once I get going here. All right, so. As Count Dracula would say, 1, and I didn't do it right. All right. I'm working on it.
It's easier if you get this a little bit on the right side.
All right. All right. You have a bent one. All right.
Oh no, did you get a bent pin?
Yeah, you gave me a bent pin.
Oh,
I think
I gave him a bent pin. Let's get rid of that one.
It works.
Okay.
It works. It just, things
Okay.
aren't always straight.
And then what we're also trying to do is just eyeball this a little closer to the edge of the quilt because we want that to be about 1/4 of an inch. And we're not going to use that one. That one is really bent.
A lot like her husband.
Oh goodness. Okay. All right, so just try to keep them consistently close to the edge, okay?
It's not going to look like Melissa's, I'll tell you that. All right. She's just waiting for me to draw blood. Is that not enough pin? Do I need to go ahead and get more?
No, you're good.
All right.
All right, we're going to do a little tag team pinning here.
Okay, it's not a race.
You kind of like this, don't you, hon?
So. A couple that pins together stays together, huh?
I would say so.
How many years has it been, dear?
We will celebrate our 28th anniversary this October.
Yes, 28 mostly happy years.
So Paul, as we're doing this pinning, tell them your version of the story of when I bought my first long arm machine.
Oh, the short version is I'm sitting at home enjoying a peaceful evening because Melissa is out at a quilt show.
Yep.
Not that I like it when she travels or anything, but ouch. That's one. I knew she'd laugh.
Make sure you don't get blood on the quilt.
Yeah. Like I say, I enjoy it when she travels.
Okay, so we just had to stop for a battery change in the camera. So Paul, continue. You don't mind it when I travel, but I was out at a quilt show.
Yes, and she gives me a call, and she is like hyped on caffeine or some illegal drug. I'm not sure, but she's been
I was on a quilting high.
quilting high, checking out this machine, and she's like, "Oh, it's got this, and it's got financing and everything," and it's like, I want to get back to my TV show, to be quite honest. So I just tell her, Melissa, just buy the damn thing.
And I proceeded to say thank you, goodbye, and run back over to the Handy Quilter booth. And yeah, that was in March of 2008. And here we are, like 9 years later. And
yeah, and I'm pinning quilts. Just what I thought I'd be doing.
Oh. But it's really been an awesome ride with me and Handy Quilter. And Paul mentioned at the time when I bought my first machine, there was a financing offer. So as I'm finishing up my pinning here, and Paul's pretty close to the end too, just want to remind you that right now, at the time that we're recording this video,
yeah,
there is a financing offer going on right now with Handy Quilter.
And can I mention that there usually are financing offers that come up periodically. That's a deal with the bank to offer some 0% financing for people. So just because you might be watching this video later doesn't mean that by the time we get around to negotiating a machine that there isn't other options that we can come up with. So
yeah,
start talking about it.
Just keep checking back with us frequently, and you know, we appreciate you coming on board and buying your machine from us. And we're looking forward to having you be our clients and our customers, and I'm super excited to have you add on Pro Stitcher because that's my love, of course.
And from the gotta sell it to your husband standpoint, when you think about making the payments on a machine, it's usually around one quilt a week that you have to quilt for somebody else, and it pays for the machine. So it's not too bad
loose
about
figures. Those are some loose figures.
I didn't
but
say how big of a machine or how big of a quilt, but with training from Melissa, you will get.
Oh yes, we'll have you quilting like a pro in no
All right.
time.
Let's not compare yours to mine.
It looks good. Hey, I'm
I got two more here. Two more.
supervising, and you did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I'm just afraid of my mother-in-law if I screw this up. I'm just kidding, Jody. I've been watching too much Last Man Standing, so I do have an attitude. All right.
Okay, so we're finishing up with the pinning now, and before we move on to wind the quilt up, and I'm going to show Paul some of my best practices for that, I want to stop and talk a little bit about the frame for a second, because if you noticed, Paul was down here at this end, kind of bending over the frame a little bit, right? I'm a little shorter in stature, Paul's a little taller in stature. So I want him to talk us through a little bit now about the hydraulic lift system that we put onto the table. And I think, should we move the camera for this, Paul?
Yeah, why don't you video me over here on the other side where the controls are.
Let's walk down to the end with the camera, and we will talk about the high-rise system from Handy Quilter.
All right, so the manly side of this table includes these hydraulic lifts. So whether you're short or tall and you come in, and this is the rental table for Melissa's rental program here, you can adjust the height. Now if you're really tall, you can send it up there all the way, and it's lifting the table up to its highest point. Now if you only want it to go so far, you've got the incremental adjustments as well, and we've even got a nice little remote. But obviously, if I'm doing quilting, I don't want to be leaning over. I want it at a height where I can move the handlebars. So I want this a little bit higher. Until it's comfortable. Now that'll be different for different people. And I hope I'm still in frame. So when you come to use the MK quilt machine here, this hydraulic system is available. Back to Melissa.
All right, since Paul adjusted the table to a higher height, this is kind of high for me. So I'm going to let Paul proceed now to roll up this quilt onto the quilt bar. And we'll tag team on this again a little bit. And what we're just going to do is wind this. And Paul, what you're wanting to do is watch your quilt and make sure on your end that as we roll this quilt up, it's pretty much staying even there on the top. Now, depending on how big of a quilt you have, this process right here can take a little bit, and you might have to every once in a while come this way and smooth the quilt out onto the bar.
Okay.
Okay, you're doing good. And this is where if you have a really nice straight quilt, don't tug on it too much like that, honey.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just want to be gentle with it. Okay, you just want to be gentle with the quilt. But if you have a really nicely pieced straight quilt, this is where you're just watching that your edges are staying on top of one another as we're, and I can see we're a little off here.
It's coming off over here, so I'm not quite sure what we do. Oh, you slid it down. Okay.
Okay, so that's what I mean about sometimes you just have to kind of watch it as you go.
Gotcha. All right.
And it may be not 100% perfect, but you want to get it as straight on top of each other as you can. And I can tell that this is loading a little crooked because see how the seam line is coming up a little bit here. So we're gonna get this under like that a little bit, and we're gonna compensate a little and try to get that.
Because you want the line to be pretty straight when you're quilting. You don't want any angular lines.
Yep, so what I was just doing right there was following the seam line of this quilt and trying to keep it on the bar or as close to straight in line with the bar as I could. I noticed that it had gotten off just a little bit, so I just compensated by putting it up a little further under the... Okay, once we get to this point, just kind of loosely let this hang down. And then what I'm going to do to finalize this loading process is just to give it a little tiny twist, one twist at a time until the backing gets taut. You don't want it too tight, but you don't want it drooping down. So just until you can feel that that's not going to go any further. And then we're just going to kind of go back and we're going to adjust the top of this quilt up to that line. And do you see how I'm kind of giving this a little tug to loosen that up a little bit if it's off a little bit here or there. And when we come over to the end, again, we're just trying to see that this is nice and straight up the end there. This is a really, really nicely pieced quilt. Good job, Mom. And this is too tall. You're so tall.
Well, put it down.
Okay, we have the high-rise system. We can put it down a little bit.
Just press the middle button.
So I'm going to go to the middle setting, which is the setting that is perfect for my height. And at this point, I like to put a pin or two in to make sure that my quilt kind of stays in line with that plumb line that we put in earlier. Paul, I'm going to need a few more pins.
All right. Get the other camera going here. Let's back up.
And you want to make sure to take this pin out, because we don't want to sew over that pin.
There you go. She's talking about the little safety pin that she had put in to mark the top left.
Yep, always top left. That's kind of how I do it. I don't know, a little secret. I always wanted to be a left-handed person. I don't know why. Left-handed people are just so awesome. So are right-handed people. But anyways, I just do top left, and then I always know that I've done it the same every time so that I don't get myself confused when I'm loading.
Okay, so you're just pinning every 6 inches or so?
Yep, just every 6 inches or so, because what we're going to do now is we're going to let Paul baste this quilt onto the frame, onto our backing. Okay, we're going to put on the side grips though. And this is such a wide quilt that the side grips we're going to have to use.
Okay, so this just goes on to the tube. All right.
This is very, very wide quilt, so I'm going to have to think of something how to address that.
So what is going on here?
Okay, so your end is actually better. Remember how we compensated by loading further down there? So I'm very close to the edge down there, but your end is fine. So we're just going to use this, and I use the little this because then I don't have to use the end of the Velcro, and besides the end of my Velcro wore out. So
okay.
All right, Paul, what what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put the machine into a basting stitch, a long stitch. I usually go down on my fusion to a 4 or a 5. So let's go to 4. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna baste as close to the edge of this quilt as you can. Then you're gonna come off onto the side again, and then you're gonna baste along the top. And I don't want you to run over the pins. And what I tried to do with the pins is pin them a little ways away from the edge. But if you're approaching a pin and you think you're gonna hit it, just slow down and pull the pin out when you reach it, okay? Otherwise, you're gonna have to time the machine.
Okay, so am I a 1/4 inch in?
You wanna be less than a 1/4 of an
Okay,
inch.
it's close to that because it's basting. Okay.
Okay. So you wanna do that needle down, needle up thing again to get your thread.
Pull off to the side. Oh, I need to hold on. I got it. That wasn't as pretty as it should have been. Pull these things out, put it right back, and I'm glad I can edit this so I don't look so incompetent. All right.
Okay, hold on a second. Remember I lowered down the machine a little bit? Let's go ahead and give Paul a little so he doesn't have to get a bad back here.
That's good. All right. So I get it in there and then down and up again?
You're gonna have to hold on to the threads as you start.
Do I start or do I do down and up first and then I start?
You can do it either way, but I usually just start.
Okay.
But you can do it either way.
I'm less coordinated. I need to get balanced here. Okay, so it's just straight down, miss the pin on the edge.
And you don't have to hold the threads after you get going. It's just so that they don't get mangled on the bottom of the quilt. If you just hold on to them as you start going, then you can use your left hand to
smooth.
So that you can get.
You've got this on cruise instead of end regulated, so it's going to keep going a little bit if
But
I'm
you
slow.
want to hold the threads as you start. There you go.
Okay. Very close to the edge. I think I just missed the edge there.
You're close enough. You're close enough. Okay, now what I usually do is run myself out into the batting, back up here, and then slowly across the top.
So while it's running, I go back out in the batting and stitch up?
Yeah.
All right. And then across the top.
You're going to have to guide the fabric a little bit with your fingers.
This is the part of the quilt that nobody's going to see, right?
Right, but you want to keep that edge from puckering.
Smooth, yeah. And the dog from getting in the way. All right, so that this is an enormous video. Finish it up at a higher speed. The back is starting to hurt. That's a long quilt. I thought we were going to do something a little smaller. Thanks, Mom. Now she's just showing off. You ticklish? Samson, come on.
There we go. Now, we did not change out our thread when we started. So Paul and I are going to choose the thread for this quilt, and then I am going to show him how to lay down a pantograph that I've already got set up, all the information about my best practices for pantos. Say that like 3 times fast. Best practices for pantos is on my video training store on mkquilts.com. But I already have the pantograph set up. I'm going to show Paul how to lay it down, crop it off, and we're going to be stitching.
So Melissa, how do you decide what color to use?
Oh gosh, sometimes it is difficult, but this is a beautiful fall quilt, and we didn't zoom in close up on the fabric, but there's all kind of maple leaves on here and all kind of rich, dark, beautiful colors, but there's also this beautiful kind of dusty green in the background. The backing is a light color on this quilt, which tells me that the quilting is really going to show up nicely on the back too. So my first thought was to go with some sort of a goldeny, caramely kind of color. I use Omni Threads by Superior here at MK Quilts. Both of my machines love them. And so, whew, this one's a mess, but there we go. So I'm laying it down on the quilt, and that looks really pretty, don't you think? That one's called Hazelnut. Coffee. Coffee. All right, this one is a little bit more golden. This is called Antique Gold. That one shows up a little better on the green, don't you think, Paul?
I think so.
Now it does blend in a little bit more with the dark fabric. So sometimes it's like, oh, which one? You know, it's one or the other. Sometimes they're so close that, you know, you could go either way. I think these ones are going to be a little bit too light. I'm not crazy about that. I like the richness of this quilt, and I like these darker colors that are really... I think this one is going to be too yellow. Yep. And I think this one is going to be a little bit too dull. Oh, I don't like that one. I'm really liking these colors right here. They're rich. They got a little bit of sheen to it with that Omni thread. And so we're going to make a decision, Paul and I, between Hazelnut and Antique Gold. And we'll meet you back here and we'll get Paul stitching. All right, so wow. Paul did a great job, didn't he? And we did some tag teaming right there. That was fun. So we've got this beautiful quilt loaded. We have chosen our thread. I chose a thread called Hazelnut. It's this really beautiful goldeny kind of a thread. And we are ready to stitch. But I really quickly wanted to mention a little bit about my methodology for storing my pantographs. So over the years, what I have found that works best for me is to always, always, always make sure that when you buy digital patterns that you save them somewhere securely, like on your hard drive or backed up to the cloud or some other plan. Have a plan for backup. So all my master files are on my computer. But on this flash drive right here, I have a dedicated flash drive that is just for my pantographs. So what does that mean? For all of those pantographs that I know and I love, I keep them on this stick in a master folder called Master Pantographs. I have the original file in the folder, and then I also have the pantograph that I've already set up. I call that the MK way. Again, you're going to want to hop over and rent my Pantos video to find out about the way that I set up the pantograph. But basically the pantograph is already set up on this flash drive. So I'm going to bring Paul in now, and I'm going to show him how to take the pantograph that I've already set up, how to mark the area for this quilt, and how to get him stitching. Just come on in. Okay, Paul, so what we're going to have you do is pull up the pantograph. I have chosen a pantograph called Maple Syrup, which I thought was very fitting for this quilt since the main focus fabric has all these beautiful maple leaves in it. So you're going to go to File, Design, and you're going to do Open, and you're going to scroll down. Now you're going to see I have a bunch of stuff at the top there, but just...
So we're on the D.
We want to be on D.
Which is the USB drive?
Yep, which is the D drive is the
right.
flash drive. And we're under our Master Pantograph folder, correct?
Master Pantos folder.
Okay, now there's a bunch of stuff at the top of my directory that are previous quilts that I have stitched, so we're going to scroll by until we find Maple Syrup.
And how do I scroll?
To scroll, you're just going to go like that.
I can just touch it. There
okay?
were no scroll bars, yes. Okay. All right, we're at the bottom. What are we looking for?
Maple Syrup.
Maple. Must know our alphabet. There it is. Maple Syrup.
Okay, so do you see I have the master? If I needed to set it up again, I've got the master.
Okay.
But here's the pantograph that we already have set up the MK way.
Okay, so the master is the basic
one repeat
stencil
of that
goes
pattern.
over one repeat of the pattern, and
Yep.
then you put them all in. So you want the whole master thing there, and I say open.
Yep.
All right, I've seen her do this hundreds of times.
All right, so just to have a quick evaluation of how I have this set up, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit because looks to me like I've set this one up just slightly differently. So I have the top row of this pantograph already set up. That's going to be a cropped row. I'm going to have Paul place that right at the top of the quilt. We're only going to stitch that pass once, then we're going to get rid of it. Then I've got 3 other passes of the pantograph pre-set up so that one pass will stitch left to right, the next pass will stitch right to left, and then we have one final pass that gives us our positioning row. All of that is explained in my Pantos video. Okay, Paul, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to take this pantograph, we're going to lay it down on this quilt. So what I want you to do is grab the handlebars and go all the way up to the top left-hand corner of the quilt.
All right, this is going to be movie ready. How's that?
Okay, what we want to do is we want to be a good inch off to the left of the quilt and then right up along the top. I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm going to go off the edge of the quilt. Maybe that's about 1.5 inches. And then I'm right up along the top and we're going to hit our 2 corner area, right? We're setting an area.
Okay, go ahead, hit it.
Okay, so we're going to go to area and 2 corner. And it's off the screen right now, so I'm going to hit refresh. But there is my little area marker. Okay, so then we're going to drag our machine all the way over to the other end of the quilt, down to the bar. We're going to make sure we're off the edge of the quilt over into the batting, and we're going to hit our other 2 corner. Now, here's the thing, and this is actually kind of a good example for this quilt. Most of the pantographs that I set up ahead of time for my quilts, I set them up to 100 inches wide. That's pretty wide, and it's usually wider than I will need for a quilt. My mom makes pretty large quilts, and so this pantograph is not wide enough in the way that I pre-set it up to cover this quilt. So I'm going to have Paul stop the camera for a minute. I'm going to adjust the pantograph to a new size, and if you want to watch me do a lot of that functionality, you can hop on over to my YouTube channel or check me out on my video training store. But I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking to this pantograph so that it fits this quilt, and then we'll be back here and let Paul get her stitching. All right, so a little bit off camera there, what I did was gave Paul a really quick lesson from MK on readdressing that pantograph. It was just a little bit too narrow for this quilt. And rather than setting the whole thing up from scratch, I gave him a few tips and techniques that I normally give inside of my Pantos class on how I adjusted it. I didn't have to start from scratch. I just had to make a few adjustments to that pantograph. We cropped it off, and now we're ready to go. All right, so Paul, I'm going to have you come on into the screen, and we are ready to stitch. I'm stitching at 13 stitches per inch. I've got it on cruise. We have our thread loaded. Everything's ready to go. So Paul, we need to quilt.
So are you doing camera while I move this down here?
Sure. Actually, you don't have to move anything.
Oh, that's right. This
So
is computerized.
It's
Oh,
computerized,
all right.
and we did all of that area marking, so our pattern is perfectly positioned right
I
now.
don't have to be there.
Okay, so what you need to do is go under Pro Stitcher. We're going to check under Quilt, and we're going to check our settings.
Quilt, and which settings are we doing?
So we want to make sure we're in stitch mode, so we want to turn stitch on. We want to have a pull-up, and I usually use the pull-up plus the pull-up auto. That just means that it's going to automatically move the machine when the needle goes down to get the bobbin thread.
So you can grab it?
So you can grab the bobbin thread, okay? We're not going to do any tie-offs because we're going to be out into the batting. We don't need to have a secure end there. We're just going to hold the threads as the machine starts stitching. So just remember that when it starts to stitch, just hold those tails.
Okay, I'm nervous.
It's all right, honey. I'm here. Okay. All right. So we've checked our settings. We're ready to hit run, and the machine's going to go over there and
Oh, this is easy then. You made it sound hard.
No, it's very easy.
Oh, now I have to okay, verify settings, make sure the needle is up. Okay, and then proceed. All right. Ooh. Let's see if I can get this down here before the machine
Now,
gets here.
here's one thing about the fact that I told you that you didn't need to move the machine down here. As you can see, McFusion has taken her good old sweet time to get down here to the left end of the machine or of the frame. Now, Paul could have grabbed the handlebars, walked McFusion down here, and then hit run, and it wouldn't have taken so long to get to that start point. So it doesn't matter which way you do it, just understand that it does take some time.
This is dramatic effect.
It does take some time to move down, so it may be a little bit quicker to just get her closer to the start point before you hit run.
Her. Okay.
It's a she.
It's a she. All right. I guess I wouldn't want him. Okay.
All right. Grab the thread there, Paul, so that you can not
this
lose it
one?
when it goes.
All right.
Yep.
I've got that one.
Keep hold of it.
Keep hold of it. Pull that one up.
See how the
All
auto moved
so
the
I've got them
machine?
both.
So you got them both. Now you're going to continue to hold those threads until McFusion starts stitching.
Okay, what makes Fusion start stitching?
Look at the screen.
Oh, pull up pause, pull up thread, resume to continue.
Resume. There we go.
Oh, dog, you scared me. And you would cut those off now, or you don't care in that?
No.
All right.
And I'm just looking at this pattern, and this is one of those things. I actually did a post not too long ago about the speed profile. I might go ahead and slow the machine down a little bit on this pattern. This is a pattern that has a lot of sharp change in directions, and I don't want the machine jerking around too much. So I might slow the machine down a little bit. I might even go into the speed profile and take that max acceleration and the speed down in the settings.
Okay, the tension on top looks good to me. Do you usually stop it and take a look at the bottom, or are you just confident?
Yep, we can. I'm usually confident. This machine has really good tension, but a lot of times I'll just take my hand first and I'll feel on the underside. And Paul's under there looking right now. On McFinity, remember, that's another one of the awesome features over on McFinity. She has an underneath camera that you can install. But over here, if you gotta look, you gotta crawl under there and look. How does it look?
It looks pretty good.
Let me take a look. Yeah, that looks good. However, I do think that the speed for this pattern is a little bit too fast. So I'm gonna go under advanced, under my speed profile, and I'm going to take my speed down to 1350. That's a good amount less than what this machine is capable of in free motion, but I don't want it moving so fast on this particular pattern. So I took the speed down. Let's see, the default max acceleration is 64. I'm going to take that down to 55, and then we're going to give this a go. I just think that that's stitching a lot more smooth, much smoother, and there's not a lot of jerking around, and I'm going to get much better stitch quality if I do that. Now the thread color that we chose blends in really pretty with this printed fabric, but it's also going to look beautiful once it hits the green area of this quilt. So there you have it, folks. Paul went through the process of loading this quilt, of getting it pinned on, of getting the batting on there, and even with Samson in the picture here, we got it done, and Paul did a great job. I'm not sure he could do it solo yet, but he's got plenty of hours of video of me doing this, so yeah, I think this quilt's going to be beautiful. And now, Paul, you got time to go over and work on my computer.
Oh yes, fun. All right, let's some of this stitch out and see what it looks like.
All right. right, well, we're going to go ahead and call it quits on this really fun little video that we did today, giving Mr. MK some training here at MK Quilts. You guys, thanks so much for coming along on my training videos on my YouTube, on little fun little videos like this. It's just really fun. Samson wants to once again be included. So, as we mentioned, it's a family affair here at MK Quilts. From my studio to yours, happy quilting. Bye-bye. Go ahead and bark.
Bark.
Bark. Who's here? Bye, you guys.
Still small voice cries out to my soul, come, come my love. Come my sister, my beloved, come my dove, my perfect one, and my heart sings, set me like a seal on your heart, like a seal